I watched my husband's face drain of color as he stared at his phone. His fingers trembled, actually trembled, as he scrolled through what I knew was his banking app, looking for money that wasn't there anymore. "Where is it?" Marcus whispered, his voice cracking. "Where's the mortgage payment?" I took a deliberate sip of my coffee, savoring the bitter taste almost as much as I was savoring this moment. 3 days. It had only taken 3 days since I'd quit my job for the cracks to start showing. By tomorrow, the bank would begin foreclosure proceedings on his precious house. "I don't know what you mean," I said calmly, setting down my mug. "Maybe you should check with Veronica. Doesn't she handle your finances now?" His head snapped up, eyes wild. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." The fear in his eyes was delicious, because Marcus couldn't know, that I'd already lived through this nightmare once before, that I'd already died because of his betrayal, and that this time, I was going to destroy him before he destroyed me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. In my first life, I was pathetic. There's no other word for it. I met Marcus Chen when I was 23, fresh out of college with a degree in software engineering and a job offer from a prestigious tech company in Seattle. He was 28, charming, ambitious, and working as a real estate agent. He swept me off my feet with expensive dinners, weekend getaways, and promises of a future filled with love and partnership. We got married within a year. "I'm so proud of you," he'd said on our wedding night, holding my hands in his. "My brilliant wife. We're going to build an amazing life together." I believed him. God, I was so stupid. The problems started small. A month after our wedding, Marcus came home excited about a can't-miss investment property. He needed $20,000 for the down payment. "It's our future, babe," he'd said. "This property will double in value in 2 years. Trust me." I transferred the money from my savings the next day. Then there was the new car he needed for work, $40,000. "Real estate is all about image," he'd explained. "Clients won't trust an agent who drives a beat-up Honda. This is an investment in my career, in our future." I co-signed the loan. Then came the renovations on the house we'd bought together, a house that was only in his name because it made the mortgage application easier, and I'd been too naive to question it. $50,000 from my bonus, $30,000 from my savings, $15,000 from the emergency fund I'd built up. Every single time, he had a reason. Every single time, it made sense. And every single time, I handed over my money like an idiot. But Marcus's real estate career never took off the way he promised. He made sales here and there, but they were inconsistent. Meanwhile, my career at Technova Solutions flourished. Within 3 years, I was a senior software engineer making $180,000 a year. Within 5 years, I was a principal engineer making $250,000. And Marcus? He was making maybe $60,000 on a good year. I didn't care about the money disparity. I loved him. I thought we were partners. When he suggested we combine our finances to make things simpler, I agreed immediately. We opened a joint account, and I set up direct deposit for my entire salary. "This way we can manage our household as a team," he'd said, kissing my forehead. "No more his money and her money, just our money." That was the beginning of the end. At first, I didn't notice anything wrong. The bills were paid. We had food on the table. Life continued. But slowly, I realized I never seemed to have any money of my own. If I wanted to buy something, anything, I had to ask Marcus. "A new laptop for work? Do you really need it? Can't you use your work computer? Clothes for an important presentation? Those seem expensive. Can't you find something cheaper? Dinner with my old college friends? We need to watch our spending right now." Meanwhile, Marcus always had money for golf outings, expensive dinners with clients, and a rotating collection of new watches and shoes. When I questioned him about it, he'd get defensive. "I'm managing our finances, aren't I? The bills are paid, aren't they? Why are you complaining?" And like a fool, I backed down every time. The real truth came out on a Tuesday afternoon in March, 6 years into our marriage. I'd come home early from work with the flu and I found his laptop open on the kitchen counter. He'd been in such a hurry to leave for a showing that he'd forgotten to close it. The screen showed his email, and right there at the top of his inbox was a message from someone named Veronica Marsh. Can't wait for our trip to Maui next week, baby. I've already packed that red lingerie you love. Thank you for everything. The spa days, the shopping trips, the new car. You spoil me so much. I'm so lucky to have a man who treats me like a queen. Love you always, V. I stared at that email for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. My hands shook so badly I could barely scroll, but I did. And what I found destroyed me. Months of emails. Years, actually. Veronica Marsh, a 26-year-old aspiring model Marcus had met at an open house. He'd been having an affair with her for almost 4 years. 4 years of my life, my money, my trust, all a lie. The emails detailed everything. The luxury apartment he'd rented for her in downtown Seattle, $4,000 a month. The Mercedes he'd bought her, my bonus from last year, the shopping sprees at Nordstrom, the spa packages, the weekend trips to wine country. All of it funded by my salary while I'd been eating packed lunches and wearing the same rotation of clothes for 3 years because we needed to save money. There were photos too. Veronica in designer dresses, holding champagne glasses, laughing at expensive restaurants. Veronica on beaches I'd never seen. Veronica wearing jewelry I could never afford, jewelry I had paid for without knowing it. And the messages from Marcus made me sick. You're so much more fun than her. She's always working, always stressed. You know how to live. You make me feel alive again. Don't worry, baby, she'll never find out. She's too stupid and too busy with her computer coding to notice anything. Too stupid. He'd called me too stupid. I printed everything, every email, every receipt, every incriminating message. I packed the documents in a folder and drove to a lawyer's office with tears streaming down my face. I want a divorce, I told the attorney, Otane, and I want everything documented. He's been stealing from me. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s named Patricia Holbrook, reviewed my evidence carefully. This is financial infidelity, she said. With this documentation, we can make a strong case for fraud. You'll get back everything he stole, plus alimony, plus... She kept talking, but I barely heard her. I was too busy planning my escape. My new life, my freedom. I should have known it wouldn't be that easy. Marcus came home that night, all smiles and kisses, asking how I was feeling. I couldn't even look at him. We need to talk, I said. His smile faltered. About what? About Veronica Marsh? About where my salary has been going for the past 4 years? About the divorce I'm filing tomorrow. The mask dropped immediately. His face went cold, calculating. You went through my computer. You left it open, and I'm glad I did. I know everything, Marcus. Everything. You can't divorce me, he said flatly. I'll fight you on everything. This house, the accounts, all of it. You'll get nothing. We'll see what the court says. He laughed. Actually laughed. The court? Baby, the house is in my name. The car is in my name. The investment properties are in my name. You signed them all over without even reading the documents. What are you going to do? Prove I spent your money? Good luck. It all went into our joint account. Our money. I can spend it however I want. I have evidence. Of what? That I have a girlfriend? Washington is a no-fault divorce state. They don't care. And all that money? It's marital property. You're not getting it back. I felt the walls closing in. I'll tell everyone. Your clients, your family, everyone will know what kind of person you are. Go ahead, he sneered. You think I care? You think anyone will side with you, the boring engineer who can't keep her husband happy? I'll tell them you were frigid, neglectful, that you drove me away. I'll make you look pathetic. He stepped closer, and I saw something in his eyes that I'd never seen before. Something dark. You're not leaving me, Sarah. You're my golden goose. Do you think I married you for love? You were a meal ticket. a lottery win. You're going to keep working at that tech job. Keep depositing your salary in our account and keep your mouth shut or I'll make your life hell. You can't force me to, can't I? Think about your career. One word from me to your boss about your emotional instability, and you'll be on a performance plan so fast it'll make your head spin. Think about your family. I'm close with them, remember? They love me. They'll think you're having a breakdown. You'll lose everything if you try to leave me. I should have fought harder. I should have called his bluff, but I was scared, exhausted, and so broken. So I stayed. For 2 more years, I stayed. I went to work every day, came home to his cold indifference, and died a little more inside. The lawyer bills started piling up. My attempt to divorce him had been expensive and ultimately unsuccessful when I backed out. Marcus made me pay those bills from my salary, calling it penance for trying to destroy our marriage. Veronica got bolder. She started calling the house, texting him while we ate dinner together. He didn't even bother hiding it anymore. My health deteriorated. I stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping. My work performance suffered, and I was put on a performance improvement plan, just like Marcus had threatened. The stress was crushing me. And then, on a rainy evening in October, 8 years after I'd married Marcus Chen, I drove home from a particularly brutal day at work. My manager had given me a final warning. My mother had called to tell me I looked tired and unhappy in the family photos from Sunday dinner and suggested I try harder to be a good wife. Marcus had texted me to pick up dry cleaning for an important date night, which I knew meant an evening with Veronica. I was so tired, so broken, so done. I didn't see the truck run the red light. I just felt the impact, the crushing metal, the sudden sharp pain. And then nothing. I woke up screaming, my hands clutched at my chest, feeling for injuries that weren't there. I was in my bed, our bed, with morning light streaming through the windows. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom. A dream. It had been a dream. The accident, the pain, the darkness, just a nightmare. Except when I looked at my phone on the nightstand, the date read March 15th. 8 years ago, the exact day I'd found those emails on Marcus's laptop. I stared at that date for a full minute, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. This wasn't possible. This was... The bathroom door opened and Marcus walked out, toweling his hair dry. Young Marcus, 28-year-old Marcus, before the cruelty had fully set into the lines of his face. "Morning, babe," he said cheerfully. "Feeling better? You looked really rough yesterday." Yesterday, when I'd come home with the flu, when I'd found his laptop, when my entire world had shattered. But this time, it hadn't happened yet. This time, I was living this day again. "I'm fine," I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, mechanical. "Good. I've got a really important showing today. That property on Mercer Island? The one I told you about? I think I'm finally going to close this deal." He was so excited, so animated. This was before the resentment had set in, before he'd stopped pretending to care about his career. He kissed my forehead and headed for the closet. "I might be home late. Don't wait up." With Veronica, he'd be with Veronica tonight, in the apartment I'd paid for, drinking wine I'd bought, touching her with hands that wore a wedding ring I'd purchased. But I already knew all of this. I'd lived it before. The realization hit me like a freight train. I hadn't dreamed my death. I had died, and somehow, impossibly, I'd been sent back to the day it all started to unravel, back to the moment when I could have changed everything. "Marcus," I said slowly, "leave your laptop here today. I might need to use it for some work stuff." He paused, his hand on a tie. "What? Why? Use your own." "Mine's acting up. Just leave it, please." He shrugged. "Fine, it's in the kitchen." The moment he left, I ran to that laptop, opened it, found the emails, printed everything, just like I had before, but this time, I didn't cry. This time, I felt nothing but cold, focused clarity. I had 8 years of memories, 8 years of knowledge. I knew every move Marcus would make, every lie he would tell, every manipulation he would try, and I knew exactly how to destroy him. But I also knew that a direct confrontation wouldn't work. The court system had failed me before. Marcus was too clever, too well prepared. He'd structured everything to protect himself. So this time, I wouldn't play by the rules. This time, I would be smarter. I called in sick to work, genuinely sick this time, from the shock of rebirth, and spent the entire day planning. I reviewed our financial situation with my future knowledge, mapped out all of Marcus's schemes, and identified the one critical weakness in his entire operation. Me. Marcus's entire lifestyle, the mistress, the properties, the cars, everything, was funded by my salary. In my first life, I'd kept working like a dutiful wife. Even after I knew about the affair, I'd been too scared, too beaten down to make any drastic moves. But what if I just stopped? The house Marcus was so proud of, the one in his name only. The mortgage was $5,000 a month. His income from real estate sales was inconsistent at best. Some months he made $10,000, other months, nothing. He'd been relying on my steady $180,000 annual salary to cover all the bills while he skimmed off the top for his affair. Veronica's apartment? $4,000 a month. Her car payment? $800 a month. His own car payment? $700 a month. The investment properties he'd bought with my money? Each one had expenses that needed to be covered monthly. In total, Marcus needed approximately $15,000 a month just to maintain his current lifestyle. His average monthly income was maybe $5,000. Without my salary, he would last less than a week. I started laughing. Then I couldn't stop. I laughed until tears streamed down my face, until my sides ached. It was so simple, so beautifully, perfectly simple. I didn't need to fight him in court. I didn't need to expose him. I didn't need to do anything at all. I just needed to quit. I spent the next few days preparing. I opened new bank accounts in my name only at different banks. I contacted HR at Technova Solutions and changed my direct deposit information. After this Friday's paycheck hit our joint account, all future deposits would go to my new personal account. I gathered every document that had my name on it: birth certificate, passport, social security card, college transcripts. I packed a bag with essential items and stored it in my car. Then I wrote my resignation letter. Dear Technova Solutions Management, after much consideration, I have decided to resign from my position as Senior Software Engineer, effective immediately. I will not be working a notice period. I appreciate the opportunities I've had here, but I must prioritize my health and well-being at this time. Sincerely, Sarah Chen. Marcus had no idea what was coming. He continued his routine, leaving early for showings, coming home late smelling of perfume, lying to my face with that charming smile. I played along, docile and obedient, just like he expected. On Friday, March 22nd, my final paycheck deposited into our joint account. $15,000 for 2 weeks of work, including overtime. I watched Marcus transfer $8,000 of it out within hours, probably to cover Veronica's rent and his various other expenses. On Monday, March 25th, I walked into Technova Solutions at 8 a.m. I handed my badge and resignation letter to HR. I packed up my desk while my manager spluttered about notice periods and projects and team dynamics. "I'm sorry," I said calmly, "but I'm done. I need to focus on my health." By 10 a.m., I was in my car, driving to the extended stay hotel I'd booked under my maiden name. I turned off my phone, put my feet up, and ordered room service for the first time in 8 years. It felt like freedom. I turned my phone back on Wednesday afternoon, 3 days after I'd quit. The messages were glorious. Marcus had sent 43 texts, each one more desperate than the last. Monday, 11:02 a.m. "Where are you? Your office said you quit? Call me now." Monday, 2 p.m. "Sarah, this isn't funny. You can't just quit your job without discussing it with me. We have bills to pay." Monday, 6 p.m. "I'm at the house. Where are you? Your car isn't here. Are you leaving me? We need to talk about this." Tuesday, 9 a.m. "The mortgage payment bounced. Call me." Tuesday, 3 p.m. "Sarah, I know you're getting these messages. Whatever's going on, we can fix it. Just come home, please." Tuesday, 11 p.m. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. After everything I've done for you, you're being incredibly selfish." Wednesday, 8 a.m. "The bank called. They're starting foreclosure proceedings. Sarah, you're destroying our life. How could you do this?" Wednesday, 12 p.m. Fine, you want to play games? I'll sell the house myself. I don't need you. I smiled at that last message. He still didn't understand. He thought this was about him and me, about our marriage. He didn't realize that I knew everything, that I'd seen the future, that I was systematically destroying him. There were also 7 voicemails, which I listened to with growing satisfaction. In the first one, Marcus's voice was angry. "You need to call me back right now, Sarah. You can't just quit your job like that. What are you thinking? We have a mortgage. We have bills. This is insane." By the third voicemail, he was pleading, "Baby, please, I don't understand what's happening. Did I do something wrong? Just talk to me. We can figure this out together." The 7th voicemail, left Wednesday morning, was pure panic. "Sarah, the bank is foreclosing. I can't cover the mortgage on my own. I've got nothing in my account. I don't know what happened to all our money. Please, you have to come back. You have to go back to work. We're going to lose everything." I deleted all the messages without responding and turned the phone off again. On Friday, exactly 1 week after I'd quit my job, I drove past our house. There was already a foreclosure notice on the door. Marcus's car was in the driveway, along with another car I recognized, Veronica's Mercedes, the one I'd bought her. I parked down the street and watched. Within 10 minutes, the front door flew open and Veronica stormed out, Marcus trailing behind her. "You said you had money!" she was screaming. "You said you were successful. You bought me this car, this apartment. Where did it all come from?" "It's temporary," Marcus was saying, his voice desperate. "My wife she quit her job. She's having some kind of breakdown." Your wife? Your wife paid for everything?" Veronica's voice went shrill. "Oh my God, you're not a successful real estate agent. You're just some broke loser spending his wife's money." "Veronica, baby, please. Don't touch me, I'm done. Find some other stupid woman to mooch off of." She got in her Mercedes and peeled out of the driveway. Marcus stood there whilst watching her go, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The next week was even better. Without my income, Marcus's entire house of cards collapsed at breathtaking speed. The bank moved forward with foreclosure. The house would be sold at auction in 30 days. Veronica's landlord called him demanding back rent. Apparently, Marcus hadn't paid her apartment for this month, and they were threatening eviction. His own car was repossessed on Tuesday when he missed a payment. And then, the really interesting things started happening. See, in my first life, I'd learned that Marcus hadn't just been stealing from me. He'd been committing actual fraud, those investment properties he'd bought in his name. He'd forged my signature on documents, taking out loans against my credit without my knowledge. He'd opened credit cards in my name and maxed them out. He'd even stolen my identity to secure additional financing for his schemes. I'd discovered all of this too late in my first life, after lawyers had gotten involved and the damage was done. But now, armed with knowledge of the future, I could time my moves perfectly. On Wednesday, I filed a police report for identity theft, providing detailed documentation of every forged signature, every fraudulent account, every illegal transaction. I'd been preparing this evidence all week, carefully photographing documents from the house before I left, gathering statements, building an airtight case. The detective assigned to my case, a tired-looking woman named Rosa Martinez, reviewed my evidence with widening eyes. "This is extensive," she said. "Your husband has been defrauding you for years." "I know. I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." "Mrs. Chen, I have to ask, why are you coming forward now? Some of these documents are years old." I'd prepared for this question. I've been scared of him. He threatened me, controlled me, made me believe I had no options. But I can't live like this anymore. I'd rather be poor and free than imprisoned in my own marriage. It was the truth, just not the whole truth. Detective Martinez nodded sympathetically. "We'll investigate this thoroughly. With this level of evidence, I expect we'll be pressing charges within the week." Marcus was arrested on Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after I'd quit my job. The charges were extensive: identity theft, fraud, forgery, grand larceny. The bail was set at $100,000. He called me from jail. "Sarah, please." His voice was broken, desperate. "You have to bail me out. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain everything." "No," I said simply. "What?" What do you mean, no? I'm your husband. You stopped being my husband the moment you stole from me. The moment you brought another woman into our lives. The moment you called me too stupid to notice. Silence on the other end. Then, how did I know? I read your emails, Marcus, all of them, years of them. I know everything. About Veronica, about the apartment, about the money you stole, about every lie you ever told me. If you knew, why didn't you say something? Why did you let me? He stopped himself. Why did I let you continue? Because I was gathering evidence, because I was planning, because I wanted to make sure that when you fell hard enough that you'd never get back up. You can't do this to me. I'll fight this. You'll what, Marcus? You have no money, no assets, no credibility. The house is being foreclosed. Veronica left you. Your credit is destroyed, and you're facing 10 years in prison. What exactly are you going to fight me with? I could hear him breathing heavily, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. You're a vindictive bitch, he finally said. No, I corrected him. I'm a woman who learned from her mistakes. You broke me once, Marcus. You won't get the chance to do it again. Goodbye. I hung up and blocked his number. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Marcus couldn't afford a good lawyer, so he was assigned a public defender who immediately advised him to take a plea deal. The prosecution had too much evidence. My documentation was airtight. He pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. I attended the sentencing hearing. I wanted to look him in the eyes one last time. Marcus looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his skin was sallow, and his eyes were hollow. When the judge read out the sentence, he seemed to deflate entirely. As the bailiff led him away, he looked directly at me. I hope you're happy, he said bitterly. I'm getting there, I replied. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Because Marcus was in prison and had no assets, the proceedings were straightforward. I got everything. Not that there was much to get. The house was gone, sold at auction for less than the mortgage owed. The investment properties were liquidated to pay back the fraudulent loans. The credit card debt was discharged as part of the criminal restitution. I walked away with my freedom, my name cleared, and my future intact, but I didn't stop there. See, in my first life, I'd been so broken by Marcus that I'd never recovered. I died in that accident, still trapped in his web, still believing I was worthless. This time, I was going to thrive. I'd taken the 2 weeks of my final paycheck before I quit and invested it carefully in stocks I knew from my previous life would explode in value. Tech companies that were unknown now but would become giants. Cryptocurrencies that were just emerging. Real estate in neighborhoods I knew would gentrify. By the end of the first year, my $15,000 investment had grown to $150,000. I also went back to work, but not at Technova Solutions. Instead, I leveraged my experience and knowledge to land a position at a startup I knew would be acquired by Google for $2 billion in 3 years. I negotiated stock options as part of my compensation package. I rebuilt my career deliberately this time. No more staying quiet in meetings, no more downplaying my achievements, no more making myself small to make a man feel big. I was brilliant, I was capable, and I made sure everyone knew it. Within 2 years, I was the VP of engineering. My salary was $300,000, and my stock options were worth millions. I bought a penthouse apartment in downtown Seattle with a view of the Sound. I traveled to Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona, all the places Marcus had promised we'd go but never did. I made real friends, dated casually, and discovered what it felt like to be genuinely happy. And every year on the anniversary of my rebirth, I checked in on Marcus. Year 1, still in prison, working in the laundry facility. Veronica had moved to Los Angeles and was engaged to a tech entrepreneur. His parents had disowned him after the scandal. Year 2, released early for good behavior, but unable to find decent work with his criminal record. Living in a studio apartment in a rough neighborhood, working part-time at a convenience store. Year 3, attempted to contact me through a friend, begging for help. I blocked the friend and never responded. Year 4, saw him from a distance at a coffee shop. He looked old, worn down, defeated. He didn't see me. I was in a designer suit, fresh from a board meeting, looking 10 years younger than I had in my first life. I walked past without a word. Year 5, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd tried to start another real estate career but failed spectacularly. No one trusted him. His reputation was destroyed. 8 years after my rebirth, I stood in the lobby of the same hospital where I died in my first life. But this time, I wasn't a patient. I was a donor. I'd made a fortune from my investments and my career. My net worth was now in the tens of millions. And I decided to fund a new wing dedicated to helping victims of financial abuse and fraud. A place where people like my first life self could get legal help, therapy, and support to escape their situations. The Sarah Chen Center for Financial Justice would open next month. During the dedication ceremony, a reporter asked me why I'd chosen this particular cause. Because I know what it's like to be trapped, I said. I know what it's like to have someone steal your dreams, your money, your future. And I know that sometimes people need a second chance to get it right. I didn't tell them about the rebirth, of course. I didn't tell them about Marcus, about Veronica, about the life I'd lived before. That was my secret, my knowledge, my power. But I smiled as I cut the ribbon because I knew the truth. I had died once, broken and defeated, but I'd come back stronger. I'd come back smarter, and I'd turned my second chance into something beautiful. 10 years after my rebirth, I was sitting in my office at Chen Technologies. Yes, I'd started my own company, and yes, I'd kept the name just to spite him, when my assistant buzzed me. Ms. Chen, there's someone here to see you. A Marcus Chen? He says he's your ex-husband, and that it's urgent. I felt a chill run down my spine. I hadn't seen Marcus in 6 years, not since that glimpse at the coffee shop. Send him in, I said. I wanted to see what desperation looked like after a decade of consequences. Marcus shuffled into my office, and I barely recognized him. He was 48 now, but he looked 60. His hair was gray, his face was lined with deep wrinkles, and his clothes were worn and cheap. This was a broken man. Sarah, he said, his voice hoarse. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk, looking around at my spacious office with its view of the city, the awards on the walls, the obvious evidence of my success. You've done well for yourself, he said quietly. I have. What do you want, Marcus? I wanted to apologize. For everything, for what I did to you, for how I treated you, for... His voice broke. I destroyed everything, my life, your life, our marriage. And I've had 10 years to think about it, to regret it. Is that all? I'm dying, he said bluntly. Liver cancer, stage 4. I have maybe 6 months left. I felt nothing, no sympathy, no sadness, no relief. Just nothing. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it in the most distant, impersonal way possible. I don't expect your forgiveness, he continued. I don't deserve it, but I wanted to see you one last time. To tell you that you were right. You were always right. I was a parasite, a thief, a liar, and you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away for nothing. You threw it away for Veronica, I corrected, and for money that wasn't yours, and for an ego that couldn't handle having a successful wife. Yes, he agreed, all of that, and I've paid for it. God, have I paid for it. Good. He flinched at the coldness in my voice. I'm not going to give you absolution, Marcus. I'm not going to tell you it's okay or that I forgive you or that we can part as friends. You stole 8 years of my life. You made me feel worthless. You used me and discarded me. The only reason I'm sitting here today, successful and happy, is because I had the strength to walk away from you. I know. Do you? Do you really? Because in my darkest moments, you made me believe I was nothing without you. You made me believe I deserved the abuse, the theft, the lies. You broke me down so thoroughly that I couldn't even recognize myself anymore. Tears were running down his face now. I'm so sorry. Your apology means nothing to me. You're only sorry because you got caught, because you faced consequences, because your life fell apart. If I'd stayed quiet, if I'd kept working and funding your lifestyle, you'd still be out there stealing from me, lying to me, and laughing at how stupid I was. That's not. It is true. Don't lie to me now, Marcus, not after everything. He nodded slowly, accepting the truth of my words. I just wanted you to know, he said finally, that you were right to leave, right to turn me in, right to destroy me. I deserved all of it. I know I was right. I don't need your validation. He stood up slowly, painfully. I'll go. Thank you for seeing me. Marcus, I said as he reached the door. He turned back. I did love you once, I said. In my own naive, stupid way, I loved you. And you killed that love so thoroughly that I can look at you now, dying, broken, full of regret, and feel absolutely nothing. You taught me that some people don't deserve second chances, that some betrayals are unforgivable. And for that lesson, twisted as it is, I suppose I should thank you. He nodded, his face crumbling. Goodbye, Sarah. Goodbye, Marcus. The door closed behind him, and I turned back to my computer. I had a product launch to plan, an investor meeting at 3, and dinner reservations with my girlfriend at 7. My life was full, busy, and entirely mine. I never saw Marcus Chen again. 15 years after my rebirth, I stood on a stage in front of 5,000 women at the International Women in Tech Conference. I'd been invited to give the keynote address, and I'd chosen to tell a version of my story. Carefully edited, of course, but true in all the ways that mattered. I want to talk to you today about power, I began. Not the power that's given to us, but the power we take back. Once upon a time, I was in a relationship with someone who controlled everything about my life. My money, my time, my sense of self-worth. I let this person make me small because I thought that's what love looked like. I thought sacrifice meant martyrdom. I thought being a good partner meant erasing myself. And then one day, I woke up. Maybe it was rock bottom. Maybe it was divine intervention. Maybe it was just sheer survival instinct kicking in. But I woke up and I realized that I had been complicit in my own destruction. That by staying, by accepting, by making excuses, I had been handing over my power every single day. So I stopped. I didn't ask permission. I didn't wait for the right moment. I didn't try to fix the unfixable. I just stopped giving my power away. I took back control of my finances. I took back control of my career. I took back control of my life. And the person who had been living off my sacrifices, they collapsed because they'd built their entire empire on my foundation. And when I removed that foundation, everything they'd constructed came crashing down. Here's what I learned. You cannot destroy someone who has built their own foundation. You cannot break someone who draws their strength from within. You cannot defeat someone who has learned that they are enough all by themselves. The greatest act of rebellion is self-sufficiency. The greatest act of revenge is success. The greatest act of love is the love you give yourself when you refuse to accept less than you deserve. So, to every woman in this room who is funding someone else's dreams while her own wither, stop. To every woman who is making herself small so someone else can feel big, stop. To every woman who is tolerating theft, abuse, or manipulation because you think you have no other choice, you do. You always do. Walk away, take back your power, build your own empire, and when the parasites come crawling back begging for another chance, you'll be so far above them that you won't even hear their cries. That's not cruelty. That's justice. That's survival. That's power. The room erupted in applause. Women were standing, crying, cheering, and I stood at that podium looking out at 5,000 faces, and I felt complete. I had taken the worst thing that ever happened to me, death itself, and I had transformed it into wisdom, strength, and purpose. I had taken my second life and made it count. 20 years after my rebirth, I received a letter from a law firm I didn't recognize. My first instinct was to throw it away. I'd dealt with enough lawyers in my lifetime, but something made me open it. Inside was a brief note and a check for $247,000. The note read, Dear Ms. Chen, this letter is to inform you that Marcus Chen passed away on November 3rd. As per the terms of his will, he has left you the entirety of his estate as restitution for his crimes against you. We are aware this sum is far less than what he stole from you during your marriage, but it represents everything he had at the time of his death. Sincerely, law firm name. I stared at that check for a long time. $247,000. 20 years of his life, reduced to a number that wouldn't even cover 1 year of my current salary. Marcus had died poor, alone, and full of regrets. And me, I was worth $50 million. I ran a company that employed 300 people. I'd been featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, and Fortune. I'd given keynote speeches on 4 continents. I'd mentored dozens of young women engineers. I'd donated millions to causes I believed in. I'd lived 2 complete lives, and in both of them, I'd learned the same lesson. You are the only person who can save yourself. I donated Marcus's money to the Sarah Chen Center for Financial Justice. It seemed fitting, taking his last dollars and using them to help other women escape the kind of trap he'd set for me. Then I went home to my penthouse, poured myself a glass of wine, and stood on my balcony watching the sunset over Seattle. I thought about the girl I'd been in my first life, naive, trusting, broken. I thought about the woman I'd become in this life, strong, wise, free. And I thought about all the women I'd helped along the way, all the lives I'd changed by sharing my story. Marcus had taken 8 years of my first life. But I'd taken his downfall and turned it into 20 years of purpose, success, and joy. In the end, I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed him, though I had, but because I'd built myself up so high that his destruction was just a footnote in my story. I raised my glass to the setting sun. To second chances, I said aloud, and to the strength to make them count. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Another day ending, another victory secured, and somewhere in the universe the girl I used to be was finally at peace.